Welcome to the Backcountry Aviation Radio. I'm your host, JB, focusing on VFR off-airport operations with big tires and short runways. Not normally this short, but it's going to get really short today. This week, I have my second international episode. Today, we're talking with Lukasz Czepiela. I think I said it okay. Lukasz flies the Edge 540 Extra 300, the Carbon Cub, we'll say EX2, but there's another one in there, and also the Airbus 320. He's placed in the past second at the High Sierra Stoll Drag. He's won the Valdez Stoll event in Alaska. He's a Polish commercial and aerobatics pilot that flies for Red Bull. So you've probably seen a video of him landing on a pier in Poland, maybe a helipad in Dubai, and most recently rocketing around the F1 track in Bahrain. This is going to be a really fun look at how to max perform a Cub Crafters Carbon Cub, but also what of those skills might translate to backcountry flying. So with all that, welcome to the podcast, Luke.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
And my number one question I always ask my guests, and we'll start with, is Poland a good place for backcountry flying?
It's not bad for Europe. Yeah, Europe, it's nowhere near to US. Whenever I come to US, I always try to do as much backcountry as I can because we don't get it at home. In Poland, you can land outside of the airports if you have the landowner's permission. So you always have to be pretty careful where you land, but we have a lot of good friends who allow us to land in some pretty cool places. That's why I love my Carbon Cub UL. And for example, in Germany, it's not allowed to land outside of the airports, even for helicopters, which is totally crazy. So Poland is not as bad as some of the other countries.
So do you have some of your favorite in the US spots that you always, when you're coming over here, you really look forward to hitting?
When I was at High Sierra, we flew every morning to a different location. Last October, when I came for a Pacific Air Show, we found a really cool spot just outside of the national park, close to Grand Canyon. I forgot the name of the spot. It was like an old airstrip for a mine. And I really had a cool time there, and I'm planning to go back there and camp a little bit. They had a nice fireplace and everything. I just love flying, and I'm really looking forward to visiting the Richmond Foundation, the Ranch 45. So that looks like a really cool place to go to.
Yeah, all the Idaho strips, I'm sure you'd have a great time in. Besides the Jim Richmond Ranch, that place looks pretty crazy, and a lot of places in between where you were at High Sierra and Idaho into Montana. I mean, just go crazy. But that's cool. I'll have to look up where that strip is out there.
And of course, Huntington Beach. Being one of the participants of the Pacific Air Show, to be allowed to land on the beach in front of hundreds of thousands of people, that was really cool as well.
So let's talk about airplanes. And I want to really kind of start with the airplanes, and then we'll go back in time and talk about how you got started, which is a cool story as well. But I just wanted to I had a couple of questions. So first of all, you fly an Airbus 320 for day-to-day, right? As for a commercial airline pilot roles, right?
Yes, that's right. I've been flying the Airbus for about 17 years. I'm a captain now. I have about 13,000 hours on the Airbus, and I think it's a pretty good working environment. Having the table on the long flights and a lot of room behind the seats. I've never flown the 737, but I flew in a 737 on the jump seat few times, and I much prefer the Airbus. It's a lot quieter and really comfortable place to work.
You really just can't say too much about the comforts of having that table in front of you, especially if on a longer flight and you get a meal.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we're flying a 15-hour duty, and out of this 15-hour duty, we are on autopilots for 14 hours. So why would I need a big stick between my legs for all this time? I really enjoy the side stick, and all the proper planes like the Edge and the Carbon Cub, they have a stick. So yeah, I've never been a big fan of yokes.
Yeah, It's I think that the only utility I fly a Boeing 757 with the yoke, of course. And so
Mhm.
what I only thing that I enjoy about it is the fact that it's drastically different than flying another airplane, right? So I get this, if I'm doing this, I know I'm at work. And if I'm using a stick, I'm not at work. So that's the only like real positive thing about the difference.
I think the one other thing that's quite beneficial is that you get the feedback. Sometimes we fly with young, inexperienced FOs, and sometimes you feel what they're doing, but you don't know exactly what they're doing. It would be nice to get maybe a little bit more feedback on the stick, which Airbus doesn't give you. But yeah, it's you can kind of feel it through the seat of your pants.
Right. And but yeah, this is not a Boeing versus Airbus podcast. So let's the other airplanes, and you have a lot of aerobatic experience, and you would probably say that's how you got into this whole Red Bull and Carbon Cub world. But I really wanted to focus on the different models of Carbon Cub that you've flown. I know the EX2, you mentioned a UL, and then the one that you flew um, in Dubai, well, not just in Dubai, was a heavily modified, I think, Super Sport before they Mike Patey did all his work to it.
Yeah, that's right. The 456 Romeo started life as a SS. I've been fortunate enough to fly all the Carbon Cubs. I've been to a factory quite a few times and Toshkosh at the Cub Crafters camp. And I've been lucky enough to fly every single model that they make. Yeah, I think so far my favorite is the UL. The lightness of the plane and the power that Rotax delivers, especially I was missing a lot of power when I took the Little Beast, the plane that Mike Patey modified to a High Sierra. Even though I had the nitrous oxide injection, uh, I was really missing some power because of the density altitude. And I think if I managed to put a nitrous in the 916 now, I would give it a run for the money to Steve Henry. He's been winning all of them, and I made the mistake racing against him. That we had a big break just to cool down the engines after a couple of runs, so we had to shut down and then restart. And I put the parking brake. So when I went against Steve, I still had my parking brake on, so I lost quite some time there. I would probably give him a good run for the money.
Well, we'll have to you have to redo that, I guess, with the UL and see what happens. Although it is nice to have the nitrous kick, but I guess that we'll get into that one a little bit more. So just so I'm clear, like your current fleet that you fly routinely is a UL, the Red Bull UL model, and then do you also have access to the little beast?
Yeah, so what I have at home back here in Europe is the brand new UL, and that's the plane I fly on the European airshow circuit, and it's currently in Middle East because we had some airshows in Saudi Arabia, then the project in Bahrain, also a little project in Muscat in Oman. The aircraft is coming back in April and will fly a lot of European airshows. And what happened to Little Beast after the Dubai landing is it went back to US. We had it with Cub Crafters for about 2 years after the project. I was allowed to fly some airshows on it, and then a good friend of mine, Nate, he bought it, and the aircraft is currently in Canada, and I can get the use of it for some airshows. Yeah, the plane is being used in Canada, but if we have some events in US, I'm allowed to go and rent it from Nate.
Nice. And did he keep it all Red Bull livery, I guess, or did he change it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a historic aircraft, and it has a lot of historic value. We did something really cool with bullseye landing, and the aircraft is as it was for the Dubai landings.
So that's the fleet, I guess, of Red Bull Carbon Cubs that you fly now. So what is, I guess, before we get it too deep into the details, I do want to talk about the Bahrain airplane a little bit more because there's just so many details that were cool about that. But when you fly both of those now, well, if you were to go from one to the other, like what are the big differences that you first off notice?
I think the best thing about the Little Beast is the center of gravity. Mike Patey did an excellent job modifying the aircraft for us. He removed the wing tanks, and he put all the fuel behind the second seat. Also, the smoke tank is there, so the center of gravity is very low in the aircraft and quite far aft. So you have maximum braking that you need, and the aircraft behaves very well. I really like unstable aircraft. I have about 1,500 hours flying aerobatics. So if it's unstable, it doesn't bother me. And having the aft CG right there on the aft wall, it makes the aircraft very responsive and very pleasant for all the extreme stuff that we want to do with it, like super short landings or fly aerobatics, like I did at Valdez or a couple of other US shows.
Yeah. And that's one thing that people get confused with when you say something is unstable, but it can still fly, right? I mean, if it's unstable, it's quicker to react to your inputs, right? Because it wants to dynamically divert from its stable position, right? So it can move quicker, but it's not a stable platform, is what you're trying to say, is maybe the traditional, the ULs or the EX Cubs are definitely a more stable platform designed for, landing off airport kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The more unstable you make the aircraft, the more maneuverable it is, and the opposite way as well. So I really enjoy. It's a lot harder to fly because you have to be on the controls all the time. The aircraft wants to once you upset it, it wants to upset even more. Uh, but yeah, I find it quite pleasurable. I like challenging aircraft, and I like doing stuff that makes me work hard, and then people to appreciate what I do for them, because we do it all for the people watching and for the people either watching on the beach or watching the videos of the extreme landings. And yeah, I started flying because I fell in love watching somebody flies, and now I'm trying to give back to the community.
Yeah. And it's all these projects, they are extreme demonstrations of what these airplanes are capable. And we'll talk about what is possible with these airplanes, what percentage or whatever. But I do like what Red Bull and what you're doing in particular in these projects, and because it does kind of push everybody's imaginations on what's possible with these airplanes. And the video series that Mike put out in partnership with Cub Crafters, all those videos are fantastic because they really dives into the details of even though this airplane looks like a regular old Carbon Cub, it really took some dramatic changes. So what do you want to start off with? I guess whose idea was it to do this helipad thing to begin with?
So let's maybe start from the beginning. I had an idea of landing a plane in the somewhere in the city center in Poland. I already had the Edge 540, and I was looking for some places like to bring the Edge and land maybe on a high street or something. But most of the towns in Europe, they have a lot of light poles, electrical cables, and it's really hard to find something. So going outside of the cities, I thought like, this pier looks good. We have a very famous historic pier in Poland, but it was a bit short for an edge. It's about 150 meters, under 500 feet. And I was like, okay, so what do I do now? I have the idea of landing somewhere. I don't have the aircraft suitable. Friend of mine is a Cub Crafters dealer for Europe. So I called him. I said, hey, Camille, can I borrow your plane for a project? He actually had a nice demo EX2 that I borrowed. I started to fly it. We started to train. We proved to the local CAA and many other authorities that we are capable to do it. And I had the aircraft for about 4 or 5 months, training and flying it to the because I never flew stall before, and
Okay.
once I started to watch to fly the aircraft slow and discovering its capabilities, I started watching guys like Trent Palmer, and Mike Patey and the Cowboys, and I totally fell in love with stall flying, and When we were done with the project and I successfully landed on the pier, I called Camille and I said, like, dude, I'm not giving it back. It stays with me. I love the aircraft. I managed to find a company that allowed me to finance it better, like a 0% leasing and stuff like that. And I became a happy owner of a EX2. And as I started flying it more, I always joked with some friends of mine that, Carbon Cub, it's like a helicopter, but for poor people. It's
Yeah.
quarter price of R44. And this helicopter joke, it just planted a seed in my head, saying like, all right, let's do something that helicopters can do, and let's land it on a helipad. I went with the idea to my Red Bull manager, and we started looking for a suitable helipad. And there was none in Poland. Like all the helipads we have in Poland, they belong to a hospital, and nobody will allow you to close a hospital for a project just for video. So since we had to go abroad, we decided like we either go big or go home, and what's the
Yeah.
most famous helipad in the world? Yeah, of course, that's the one on the Burj Al Arab. And we called some of our friends in Dubai. We went for a site visit. 2 years, more, just over 2 years of hard work preparing the permits and paperwork to have it legal and train well, and having modifications to the aircraft done. And on the 14th of March 2023, we broke the internet. We have way over 1 billion views on this video. So
Right. So you came up with this idea, Red Bull's on board, and I mean, did you have an idea that your EX2 could do this, or you're like, well, no, I need a little more of a margin of safety, and then maybe go back to Cub Crafters?
we could probably do it with EX2, but safety is number one priority. It doesn't look like watching some of the projects, but the hard work behind the scenes, it's a lot. I've been very fortunate to work with really good people in Red Bull, and as I said, I borrowed the plane from a friend of mine who was a Cub Crafters dealer for Europe, so we already had access to the factory. And we called the factory. We told them about the idea we had, and they were totally on board. And I started talking with them about the modifications and everything. And I know that Brad Dam from Cub Crafters, he called Mike Beatty and asking if he could help with the modifications. And from the first call we had with Mike, he was. It's amazing how we we thought alike. Like I was like, "Hey, Mike, what I'm afraid of is, Kami slow, high angle of attack. I'm gonna hit the tail, rip the tail off, very dangerous." And he was like, "Yeah, we built a bumper, we put the CG back, and but Mike has been absolutely fantastic to work with, and he did a great job and really, really improved the safety margins for the project for us."
Yeah, the videos are crazy, and the best one of my favorites, I suppose, is the one with you and Brad and Mike all talking about everything kind of coming together, sort of another version of this podcast, but with videos and of course Mike's energy, which is just unmatched when it comes to these scenarios. So I can only imagine what Brad and Mike's first conversation was like when they talked about this. Because and even Mike talks about in the video of how busy he is. He's got all these things in his life going on, and he has no time for this kind of thing. But I know that he, in the back of his head, he was kind of seeing the vision of hearing your crazy idea, putting the Carbon Cub, which is already a phenomenal platform, together, and then the things that his brain can make happen. It's just a really, it's fun to see everybody's energy in that, and then the fact that they just, at the end of the day, gave it to you to do what you do best, and that's it all came together, right? Makes it look easy, but it wasn't easy. So I know that, like, what are the biggest modifications you think that added to the success of landing that airplane on that helipad?
There's been a lot of things, but I think the most valuable one for me was moving the fuel tanks. Having the aft CG allow me to put a lot more pressure on the brakes. Having the fuel tanks in the wing. Once you start braking hard, the fuel splashes forward, bringing the tail up. and it wants to flip you over. If you have the tail in the fuel in the tail, the aircraft is a lot more stable under braking. It's a lot more predictable. You don't have this mass moving forward and back. And uh, yeah, we had the special shocks made by Acme, the Alaska bush tires. They prepared tires with few less plies, so they would be lighter for us. And the bumper, thankfully, I didn't have to use it, but it gave me a peace of mind that if something happens, I was safe. And a lot has happened. The building is has a really pretty but awkward shape for aerodynamics, and the helipad creates a lot of wake turbulence. Like on the first day when we tried, I did 2 practice approaches, and both of them finished with very hard landing and hitting the helipad with the left gear. What would happen is, the wake would give me like a positive wind shear. I was approaching the platform, and all of a sudden I would get like a plus 10 knots on the ASI. I decide, okay, I'm going around, full power come in, and the aircraft starts to roll and sink. And it's the wake turbulence was really aggressive and very unpredictable. So we decided to stop, to go back to the drawing board. And what we thought initially, that if you're watching some of the guys in Alaska landing the aircraft in 1 meter, and you think, wow, that's cool, doing this on a helipad, it's going to be easy. The helipad is 27 meters, like 90 feet. But those guys sometimes are doing this with winds of 30 or more knots. Anything above 10 knots on a helipad was unflyable. The aircraft was totally out of control. So we couldn't rely on high winds. We had to have some wind because that was condition of the Dubai CA after watching our practices. Talking maybe more about the project. So once we started working on going to Dubai, we painted a circle back here in Poland, and I started training. I did about 650 landings, documented landings. A lot of them were reviewed by the Dubai CAA, and they were on site watching me train. And anytime the wind was above 7 knots, I was 100% consistent and stopping with a safe margin. So what the CAA told us, I'm not allowed to land if the wind is less than 7.
Oh,
okay. But I didn't want to fly with wind of more than 10.
yeah. So you had a 3-knot. Yeah.
Yeah. And having Dubai being on the coast, the wind hardly ever comes from the direction that we want, and the strength varies a lot. So we were very, very lucky that we managed to get the wind, the speed, and everything. Like I think the crucial moment in the video that we always highlight is Mike going on the radio and saying that wind is steady 7, and this steady 7 was like a magic whisper into my ear. It's like, come and do it now, because it's gonna be gone in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's you see in the video Mike there with a little wind meter and cameras, of course, everywhere, and they had a little smoke at times to just see where it was going. And it's you get all the tools in place, but I can imagine that the direction of the wind probably varied a lot, and then up high, whatever was being sensed on the ground is not what it's like at that altitude of where the helipad is. So just the amount of variables, you really did get lucky with it. I guess you'd probably still be waiting there, and you were going to do it no matter what. So you were waiting until the winds complied with the scenario.
Yeah, but I only had the fuel tank that Mike designed for the landing was a long, tall cylinder, so the fuel wouldn't splash around. I only had 7 gallons, so I didn't have much time to wait as well.
Yeah. So that's so let's see. So we talked about the fuel, and then are you talking about the dampener, the big piece on the tail that he built to protect the tail? Is that's the whole piece you're calling the dampener?
Yeah, that was for me the most important was to protect the tail. I was later I learned the technique that when I'm arriving at the helipad, I retract the flaps and I go forward on the stick to keep the tail back. and you can see it on the video. The movement is like this. So I'm putting all the weight on the wheels to have maximum grip for max braking. But initially, when I started landing short, and most of my landings I managed to get very short, was, with, like most of the people do, full left stick, dragging it in, and I was really afraid that the tail would clip the edge of the helipad and it would just crumble.
Right.
It's not a lot of material there covered with some fabrics. Having impact like this, and then potential go around after impact like this, probably wouldn't be a happy day. So we decided to protect the tail, and the Mike built a big carbon fiber damper, or a bumper that
Yeah.
basically would allow the tail to slide over the edge and stop the aircraft.
Yeah, that's a huge piece. I was just laughing when I was watching the video because he's shaving ounces, going to titanium pieces here, and then he's got this huge, big, it's carbon fiber. It's lightweight, but it just seemed to be huge and heavy, or heavier than I imagined. But I guess it also helped with the CG aspect. Putting the fuel back there, adding a little bit of weight on the tail, sort of helped the whole dynamic stability for you when you were braking, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. They improved the CG placement, and also because it was shaped like a fin, it improved my yaw stability as well.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the cabs, there, once you get them slow, they're not very stable in yaw, and that was like an extra vertical stabilizer. So I
Yeah.
was really surprised that it benefited me in such a way as well. So it helped to improve the lateral stability, the
Yeah.
yaw stability. So
Right.
I was very happy I had it.
What about so that's most of the airplane's bigger pieces, and it was fun to see. I mean, probably most people had the same reaction when they watch Mike's video, where he's starts it off with that beautiful, pristine airplane, the fabric's all perfect, and he gets out his knife, right, and he's gonna cut open where the fuel tanks were and into the tail. Oh, like, oh, it just hurts me because I have a fabric airplane, and I can't imagine this. And even the sound of it just made me
Uh-huh.
cringe.
Absolutely, but sometimes you have to sacrifice to make things better.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. To make that airplane the way it did looked fantastic. So what about the nitrous? What was your experience when the first time you put up the power with that nitrous boost?
Uh, I really regret I didn't put the camera in the cockpit for the test flight. So Mike usually test flights all the aircraft that he built. Uh, that was the first one that he built or modified that he didn't test fly himself. And when I lined up there at Spanish Fork and I put the full throttle, oh man, the aircraft was like a helicopter. It was almost climbing vertically. It was negative Celsius, so the air was very dense. And yeah, I was like, wow, what's happening here? The deck angle was like aerobatic plane, 45-degree pitch, and I was just climbing and climbing. The nitrous is super. It gives you a lot of power, but you also have to be very careful. Mike taught me how to lean the aircraft, and you have to be in a very, very small window for the fuel mixture. If you're outside of it, the it can detonate, and it's very dangerous for the engine. So it was great to have it, but also you had to be professional how you approach it and how you use it. And I didn't want to abuse it. And I didn't use nitrous too much when it wasn't needed. So the primary use for the nitrous, it's not what most of people think was the takeoff, because I had a 600 feet elevation of the helipad and I could use the gravity. The primary use was to safely get me out if things didn't go as planned, so go around. And one of the things that Mike complimented me a lot was the decision making process. Whenever things were not going good, full throttle, go out, save yourself, and try again. So I know that I'm also flight instructors, and a lot of people will always try to put the aircraft on ground and push to land it. And it's not the way to. Nobody ever collided with this guy, And
Yeah.
go arounds were very very big part of our training and safe execution of the project
Yeah,
execution.
you're 100% right when you talk about pilots that don't want to do a go around for just day-to-day flying, right? Airlines or just commercial or just civilian flying. You get so hyper focused on, and you usually think you're a good pilot and you can get it, you can save it and you can make it work. You kind of ignore the rest of the world except for you landing the airplane. And then really, as you said, the test of good pilots is they identify that situation and make the decision to go around early or whenever it happens to be, so that they can not damage themselves or the airplane. And in your case, sounds like you had that perfect
Yeah.
mix, especially in a very unusual situation where you're not there's no ILS, there's no landing lights to tell you where you are. It's your eyeballs and this helipad, which is not a standard landing point.
Absolutely. And one of the things that was most shocking for me is, having trained for 2 years, I was very confident I can hit the distance, I can stop safely and everything. But once you come in and aim for a 90 feet platform that's 600 feet up in the air, it's amazing how not having any references below you mess up with your head. In my head, I was coming steep as hell. Like, whenever I come to stall competitions or anything like this, I'm trying to drop the aircraft almost vertically, closing the flaps, hitting it hard. So a lot of energy and the vector goes down, so you don't have the vector forward so much. And if you look at the video, I was just dragging the aircraft almost straight on level. Not having any visual references was really, really freaky. And we went to Oshkosh the same year, and there was one guy coming and saying, "Oh, your landing in Dubai was so easy. I have 2,000 hours in helicopters. I could have done it." I was like, well, good for you, but have you landed on a platform? Like in the entire Dubai, there's only currently like 6 pilots from one company that are allowed to land there because it's so difficult because of the building, the wings, and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I had not thought of that. I thought of just the lack of sort of references around it to give you sort of an idea of your closing speed, because a lot of pilots talk about in the STOL competition or landing off airport in these very short environments, you just know the feeling of the airplane and you're not really looking at your airspeed anymore. You're feeling the airplane versus looking at the gauges because you just don't have the opportunity. And in your case, you're not looking at those references and the inside the airplane. You're looking out, and you have zero. You have what, 85 feet of length of the runway, which normally you have 100 or so to kind of give you sort of a
Mhm.
pitch of what you're. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about that. Without any of that, you're just having to. Yeah, it's just your frame of reference is only an 80-foot, 5-foot wide platform, which is crazy.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like, move it up and down, and take a coin and start moving it up or down or at different angles. It was really shocking for me the first time I approached a helipad.
The actual landing that we all see was on day 2. So the first day you just had a bunch of practices, or were you trying to actually do it on the first day as well, but the winds just didn't allow?
So the local civil aviation authority, they didn't want us flying around the building, so they just gave us a permit for landing. And the first day was supposed to be the project day. We had forecasted about 15 knots of wind, which, as I said, we thought was perfect. And I did my first approach, which was hopefully the one for a successful landing. Then I got the wind shear. I had to go around. I came in for the second approach, a little lower, expecting the wind shear. And that's when I got also the rolling element, and the aircraft hit like at almost 30-degree angle, very high vertical rate. And then after the second go around, I said, "Look, guys, this is not going to work. I'm going home." So I went back to the airport. Everyone arrived. The Mike, Brad from Cub Crafters, the Civil Aviation Authority, people from Red Bull, and everyone was like, "Dude, that's not gonna work. Here's a ticket. Go home. Like, no pressure. We don't want to pressure you into anything. If that's dangerous, don't do it." And I decided to take a break. I went out for a quick walk and analyze everything. I was like, okay, let's just cut the wind. Let's do it with a lot less wind. It was the wind that was rolling me and throwing me around. Instead of having the 15 knots as the reference wind, let's not go for anything above 10. That's when CA stepped in and said, like, okay, but we don't want anything then less than 7. So we tried again on Tuesday, and Tuesday morning the forecast was favorable, and we arrived at the location. We had 2 helicopters flying around, and Mike goes on the radio like, it's calm, zero wind, nothing. I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna do a couple of practice approaches just to get my visuals right, to get my brain used to the angles. I did one approach, and Mike gave me some instructions how I could do it different. I did the second approach, and I heard on the radio like, this was perfect. And I was like, okay, so just to build the image in my head, I'm gonna do a third one, and if the wind doesn't show up, then we go home. So I did the full circuit, and on the third approach, I'm rolling up on final, and I hear the magic words from Mike. So wind is steady at 7, and I totally had to throw away the in my mind like, okay, this is not a practice approach anymore. This is the one. And when I closed the flaps and the aircraft stopped, I was just so happy and so relieved that the 2 years of hard work paid off, and the work of the entire team to make it successful, and my wife, who was very stressed after seeing what was happening on the day one. Yeah, we did something really good for the still flying community and for the entire aviation.
Yeah, so that's it's kind of dramatic. I mean, the video is only a few minutes long, but and unfortunately doesn't, tell you the whole story, but it does give you some important pieces which obviously you land, you get out, and your wife comes out, and I didn't know she was right there when I started watching the video that she was on the
Mhm.
platform. I mean, was that a tough decision for her to want to be up there when you did it versus just being at home or in a hotel room not watching?
Well, she was my psychological support. She knows me very well. She's a pilot as well. She flies my Carbon Cub. She flies the Airbus as well. So it was good to have somebody to talk with. We had a big team of people there at the location, and what I really appreciate from my manager at Red Bull. For example, 2 days before the event, people were walking up to me, so like, "Hey, is it gonna happen?" and tell us all about it. And it's not the right time to talk with people. It's the time to sit down, calm down, focus on what we are about to do. So he booked a separate table for me and my wife, and there was like 50 people at one table, and just the two of us on the other side of the restaurant. And
Yeah.
yeah, her presence helped me a lot to keep calm and focused, especially for the day two.
Sounds like an easy decision for you to have her there, but I'm wondering if she thought the same thing, like, "Oh, this is, like, too crazy. I'm gonna have to watch this, and it's gonna be too scary," but sounds like she was very relieved when you landed on the platform.
Yeah, especially after day one, when on the second approach I hit the helipad pretty hard, and it was this wake just took me there, and you can see my face on one of the videos. Like, what the hell happened? Her seeing this
Yeah.
from the helipad itself. Whenever she gets stressed, she walks. And when we met in the evening, her watch was like a million steps. She
Yeah.
walked around the hotel for hours and hours trying to
Yeah.
walk it off. And
Oh, there's a question. Oh, so the video shows it does show you, like, really on one left-hand side, boom, really compressing the tire and the gear. Was that from day 1, with the wind shear, or was that
yeah,
on the second day? That's the first
No,
day.
the unsuccessful attempts. There was two, and both of them were on day one, and it was really bad. Like when we went to disassemble the aircraft after the project, I was talking with Mike Port, who was one of the engineers from Cub Crafters, and he's also a fire pilot for the Little Beast. He said they had a really big problem removing the main gear bolt. It bent the main gear bolt. Yeah, the impact.
But that was, and they didn't find that till after the successful landing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, thankfully.
Yes. Okay, so you land in it was successful, everyone's high-fiving, and you parked the airplane. And I know I saw in one video, you tied it down, probably did some drone shots and some video. How long were you there on the platform before you took off?
We had about 90 minutes, an hour and a half from landing till I had to depart. And it was really cool. The director of the video, he was like, okay, you have to land and don't shut down the engine. We'll fly the helicopters around, film everything, and for 2 minutes you need to keep the engine running. But after day one, as soon as I landed, Mike just dropped everything and he ran up to me, and you can see me like shutting down the engine and getting out of the straps. And yeah, the euphoria and the happiness was like amazing. So I got out, I hugged my wife, I hugged Mike and all the guys from the team. Then I had to call my mom, because of course I didn't tell her why I went to Dubai. I didn't want to stress her. Then we did some interviews, some photos. We pushed the aircraft back a little bit for the donuts. One of
Yeah.
the most famous shots before I landed was David Coulthard doing a donuts in the F1 car. So I wanted to do donuts with the airplane, and then we pushed it back again. And I departed about an hour and a half after the landing.
Yeah. That's crazy. And then, yeah, so the departure was pretty easy, although I can't imagine what your radio call is to the civil authorities there. Cub Crafter 1 departing from the helipad. What?
Yeah, so my call sign was because the name of the project was Bullseye. So we called the plane a dart. And whenever I raced in the Red Bull Air Race, my racing number was number 6. So my call sign was Dart 6 on Bullseye.
Nice. Dart 6. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so Dart 6, you get pushed back. And no, I mean, you probably were not at all concerned with the takeoff from the helipad based off of the
No, that
how high.
was that was just a cherry on top. That was a reward for all the hard work that went into landing. You can see on the video that the aircraft is airborne within about 3/4 of the path, and then as soon as I clear the path, I go idle and I just die following the edge of the building, and then go for some aerobatic maneuvers. And what I really wanted as well is I did like a victory roll, couple of loops, and then a knife edge pass. And the knife edge pass is a really funny story, because the Burj Al Arab regulation doesn't allow more than 6 people at one time on the helipad due to health and safety. We had
Okay.
about 30 people in the team, and I told my manager, I was like, Wojtek, listen, when I depart, all these people, they worked very, very hard for me to land here. And as a thank you, I want the best picture that we have from Red Bull. I'm going to do a knife edge pass low of the helipad, and all of you need to be on the helipad going like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, but they don't allow more than 6 people. I was like, yeah, don't ask. Don't ask. As soon as I depart, you
Just
guys
get them
just
over there.
run up there. Yeah. And we briefed the photographer in the helicopter the day before that that's what I want to do. And we have a really, really cool photo.
I mean, there's so many good visual images from just that short 2 minute or whatever video they have. And, and my wife, who's, she's been around pilots for a while, but she doesn't understand all this stuff. But when you depart, she just was almost terrified, because again, you went idle. But I'm like, no, 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 he has so much altitude that he doesn't even need. They could have just pushed it off and you would have been
Yeah.
fine. And but that is a very dramatic boom, you're down, and of course the smoke from the airplane, and then the maneuvers are cool. But I would agree, and you didn't tell me to say this, but that is the coolest image, the knife edge pass, kind of kicking it across there, right, so close to the platform, the smoke and everything. It's just that was good,
Yeah,
well done.
Carbon Cap is excellent for knife edge flying. The massive fuselage, it creates so much lift. I would say it's better in knife edge flying than the H540.
But nobody gets to experience that except you, my friend. Nobody gets to put the airplane in that maneuver, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what Cub Crafters thinks of that maneuver. But it's very, very cool from the, like you said, the image of it.
Yeah, I'm a very fortunate guy being allowed to fly aerobatics in this plane. So uh, it's not aerobatic plane, but having so much experience as I do, we together with Cub Crafters, we developed a safe safe aerobatic routine that I can do based on my experience and a lot of test flying to keep the aircraft still within the envelope. As far as I know, I'm the only guy allowed to fly aerobatics on the new Rotax 916 by Rotax themselves as well. That's also based on the test flight program we presented them. So all the experience I had paid off, and now we can present a fantastic little routine at the air shows that I know people enjoy. And I had many people walk up to me after the show and saying that I inspired them to start training for their private pilot license and stuff like that. That's really cool for me.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the F1 track briefly. It's not as dramatic, I would say, as a helipad, but it is really cool. I really did enjoy that video, especially if you're an F1 fan and you've watched videos and the races at the tracks, which is super cool. So let's talk. Since you talked about having people come up to you and inspiring them, what inspired you to get started?
So when I was six, like nobody in my family flies or is a pilot or anything like that. And when I was six, the local Aero Club had a 70-year anniversary or something like that. And my dad decided me it's going to be a cool weekend if we go to the air show and see the air show. And I saw a batik routine by one of the Polish guys from back then, and I told my dad, like, that's gonna be me. I love it. I love what he does with the airplane, especially the tail light, where you put the aircraft into vertical, he put the power to idle, and you fly backwards. Like I was so in love with it. And as a 6 year old, I started playing with models, doing, plastic models, scaled models, then pre flying, little bit of RC. And then as soon as I was old enough to start flying gliders at 14, I applied for to the Aero Club. I took a lot of theoretical courses because I didn't have money to pay for the practical. Then they found some building jobs in the hangar. At 14, I was helping to demolish old hangar to make a space for the new one. That's how I paid for my gliding course. And yeah, I just started to build up my flying career based on that. From hangar rat to a babysitter, because at 19 I moved outside. I moved from Poland to UK, where I thought the opportunities were better for becoming a pilot. And I didn't have a visa, so I had to be a babysitter. And when the kids were at school, I would run to the airport to work in the engineering company, and that's how I paid for my PPL. Then I was a parts salesman, and that's what paid for my ATPL and aerobatic courses. And after that, I came back and I got the airline job. So yeah, a long and adventurous way. Sometimes working 7 days a week, 14-hour days, but it really paid off.
Yeah, it's all about the passion, and it's always fun to hear what people's stories are and how they got into it. And what, I mean, a lot of people just say, well, I had the money, so I did it. And it's, you didn't have the money. And so you had to really work as a kid, as you said, a hangar rat, I think you pushed airplanes out, washing airplanes, doing anything that you could around airplanes to earn the right to be able to do those things, the privilege. And then, as you said, then you moved, and I watched one of your videos talks about, you moving to the United Kingdom, and you know you did whatever you could, right, to get the experiences to get where you needed to, and through that whole thing, now you're an airline pilot. So let's kind of like fast forward through some of that. And where was the entry to the Red Bull side of things? Because I think I watched a video and I couldn't tell if it was because of the Red Bull races, or is because you won so many Red Bull races, the air races, that you got approached.
So I always wanted to be a aerobatic pilot, and when I was still in UK, I found a local guy who had a pit special, and I was working for him. He was an airshow pilot, and I was his crew chief. And then in exchange for my work, he was training me on the pits as well. And that's when the Red Bull Air Race started, about 2003, and I thought that was really cool. And I would bother the guys at the Red Bull Air Race for years before somebody answered me. Like I was writing emails. And then a really cool gentleman from the Red Bull Air Race, Sergio, he sent me a email saying, thanks for all the emails you've sent. Here's a list of things you have to accomplish to become the air race pilot. And let's stay in touch as you go up the list. And one of the last items was to be an unlimited pilot, taking part in the international competitions, and to be in the top 50% of the pilots in the unlimited class. So for years, I was working very hard, putting everything on the line to get to this goal. And 2013, I went to Texas for the World Unlimited Aerobatic Championships, and I fulfilled the criteria set up by Red Bull Air Race, and I became the first Polish guy to qualify for their races. And after about 3 years in the Red Bull Air Race in the Challenger class, I started winning quite a bit. I won several races, and that's when Red Bull Poland called me and said, like, we've been watching you for a couple of years. We like how you fly. We like your attitude. We'd like to offer you a contract. We can buy an H540 for you so you can train more. And it paid off because the year after I signed the contract, I became the world champion in the Challenger class in the world, in the Red Bull Air Race. And having put the foot in the company, then when the Red Bull Air Race finished, we started working on a lot of other concepts and projects.
Yeah, that's I mean, so much of most people's lives or situations comes down to a little bit of luck and timing. And so it sounds like that's sort of all your work and hard work was during the time when the races existed. And then, you were in a great place when things sort of fizzled, which is, again, what a fortunate opportunity for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm a firm believer in karma. Like if you do good things, the good things will come to you. Also, the way I got my airline job, it's quite funny story I like to tell. A friend of mine had a baby boy, and usually in Poland it's a occasion for a big celebration. So I left London. I went back to Poland for a party for good health of his son, and I was coming back day after, really hangover, and didn't feel like talking to anyone. But there was this lady sitting next to me, and she started talking to me about flying because I had some aviation magazines and yeah, some flying book. And we talked for 2 hours, and it was really funny conversation. And we got out in London, and she was like, "Well, it was really nice to meet you. I'm a head of recruitment for the airline we just flew, Wizz Air." And she gave me her business card. I applied, and 6 months later, I was on a typewriting for the A320. So yeah, being polite in a good place and the right time helps a lot.
Right. You could have just said, sorry, I don't feel like talking. I'm going to take a nap now. And then who knows where you'd be now. But now you have the opportunity in a very stable environment. So, I guess one of the questions is, how do you balance your day to day flying for the airline and practicing for the other stuff and then the other events?
So the reserve management, the airline I fly for, it's very kind. They know that I do good stuff that brings a positive image to the airline, and they allow me to work part time. I'll only work about 10 days a month, and I'm able to give them all the events that I have to go to, and they schedule my roster around it. So I'm very fortunate with the airline. And the remainder of the month, I usually train. And 2 years ago, I was once again very, very lucky. After 4 years of hard research, I found a nice piece of property. And now we have a house with a private strip and a hangar just outside of the house, so I can fly more often. And yeah, I'm a very, very lucky guy.
Yeah, no kidding. That's everybody wants that setup where they can just go out their backyard, take off and fly around, then come back and put it back in the garage.
Yeah, absolutely. When the airshow organizer sometimes asks, like, where are you coming from? I was like, yeah, I'll fly from home. I'll fly from home. I'll do a display for you, and I fly home again.
Yeah. No hotel
Yeah,
required. I'll just take it home.
yeah, especially now with a 6 weeks old baby boy on the other side of this wall. It's I want to be home as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is so let's talk about the F1 track briefly. And so that airplane is the UL.
Yeah, so last year in November, I was lucky enough to be invited to take part in the Sand and Fun Air Show in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So I went to the show. We did a little project with Landy on a car on the platform, and since we had the aircraft already in the region, I've sent the email to all the local Red Bulls that, listen, guys, I'm in the Middle East. We can save a lot of money on shipping the aircraft, and let's do a couple of projects here while I'm here. And Red Bull Bahrain, they called us and say, like, hey, we together with Rotax, we have this big competition for Rotax that was grand finale for one of their championships for go-karts. And Garrett, who's a really, really nice gentleman from Rotax, he organized all the permits with Bahrain International Circuit. I went there. I flew a air show for all the competitors in the go-karts, and we also had the privilege to fly the full track uh, for the F1, which was published like a week ago, just before the F1 season starting. So for me, it was amazing to fly the F1 track. I have a super cool racing simulator at home, and I
Oh
spent a
yeah.
lot of time. I spent a lot of time driving on the simulator. I used to be sponsored by Porsche. So I like speed, and yeah, it was really privileged, but also hard work. There's because Bahrain is a night race. We had about 350 light poles to avoid in
Yeah.
the circuit. That's why you can see me sometimes going very high to jump over the lamp posts, and a lot of obstacles. Also, a lot of preparation. Driving around the track several times to see all the obstacles and how to avoid them, and I think it's a pretty cool video. We had a very experienced FPV pilot following me, Kola, and I think we produced something that a lot of people enjoyed.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was fun to watch. And I did, from someone who flies airplanes low and slow, I looked around and I just saw all the, I was just sweating watching it because of all the light poles that you accurately avoid. But there's just so many light poles. Even when I know you're above them, I know you're going to descend and be more on the track. And it just was it was a very fun video to watch, especially if you were a F1 fan or a racing fan. Very, very cool. The
Yeah,
ups and downs and the turns you made.
and also having beautiful platform to fly. It's the UL super light with 700 pounds of thrust coming from this 916 with the hard shell prop. Uh, and the throttle response, it's very quick. So whenever I was coming to a tight corner and I had to decelerate fast, going to idle, the aircraft decelerates very well. The prop goes very flat, and then as soon as I open the throttle, the turbo kicks in, and yeah, I wouldn't be able to follow it so closely in any other aircraft, I think.
Right. So you are, as you're flying around, I notice you're also manipulating the flaps, maybe for the tightest turns. But are you also adjusting the pitch of the prop?
So with the UL, the good thing is that it's all fader controlled, and we have a custom software on this UL that was designed just for me for the aerobatic routine. So whenever I need to go fast, I get the best speed, and whenever I want to decelerate, I get the full braking. So usually the software is much different to what I need. And we worked with the RS flight systems on the custom software just for what I do. And yeah, the pitch is controlled automatically by FedEx. And whenever the turn is very very tight and I'm below the flight operating speed, I use the flaps as a secondary pitch control. It really helps to tighten the turn.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't of course I don't use the flaps to turn tight in my day-to-day maneuvers, and because the speed is hard to maneuver or hard to keep it track of, like, okay, I'm above or below the line where I can use the flaps. But I do remember in other airplanes maneuvering in the military with using just full speed brake air, flaps if you could, to get to a very tight turn because you're slow and you can maneuver quicker. So I was like, oh man, he's using the flaps in the turn. So I mean, I know some of those hairpin turns, you really have to have everything dialed in terms of speed control, the bank, and then again you have the thrust to get out of it, but you're still slowing down and then going fast.
Yeah, and sometimes you also cross control to sleep the aircraft like in a turn to get it down. And yeah, it's really funny if you look at the onboard video. I'm like, the throttle. Sometimes if you watch my aerobatic routine, it's like, the right hand on the stick, the rudders are kicking all the time, and the left hand is on the flap lever, and I change the power with my elbow, and that looks really funny to a lot of people.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'll have to look for you manipulating the throttle with your elbow next time I watch your video.
Yeah, that's a funny sight.
Yeah. Okay, so that's some of the big things. What would you say, if I were to say, what are some of the skills that you use in the Carbon Cub that, like, everybody should know this skill if they're going to land on a river bar, a very short sand peak, or someplace in the Sierras, or where? What are some of the, like, top skills?
Yeah, I think go up high and get very uncomfortable with the aircraft because it's strong and safe aircraft, and if you go up high and fly it on the backside of the drag curve, it will make you a better pilot. Like sometimes when I do a high and steep approach, getting on the backside of the drag curve, it's gonna bring you down like a helicopter in the auto rotation. But don't do it if you don't have hundreds of hours practicing it. Like even the aerobatic routine, one of the simplest figures, which is a barrel roll, is the figure that killed the most airshow pilots because the aircraft like this, which are not typical aerobatic pilots planes, and will not sustain inverted flying. You have to be really perfect, keeping the 1G, all the way around. If you mess it up, the aircraft will fall out of it, and it will fall out quite drastically and dangerously. So go out, have fun, have fly it outside of your comfort zone. Make sure you do it high, and that will bring the confidence then to use in the backcountry.
Helps to have a very competent airplane to go with a very competent, proficient pilot, right? So you're a big fan of the Cub Crafters.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see me doing crazy things in this aircraft, but I haven't done them until I had hundreds of hours on the plane. Before I rolled it for the first time, I spent a good 2 months trying to get it into a really uncomfortable, like UPRT recovery positions, getting it almost inverted and seeing what will happen if I mess up this or this or this, and always having a escape scenario ready for all the stuff that I do. And yeah, I think that what makes me pretty good at what I do because I prepare well.
Yeah. Do you, and for that preparation, do you use simulators at all?
I do, but mostly for visuals. I haven't found a good simulator yet that represents the physics of the airplane very well.
Right.
X-Plane was pretty good. Aerofly, I think it's a German simulator that has the best physics. The Microsoft Flight Simulator, sometimes I do just to get the visuals if I'm going to like Bahrain, the international circuit, or we had proposals to fly some other racetracks. Then I will use Microsoft Flight Simulator because it has the best graphics, so I can see the stuff around. In the winter time when we don't fly much, and like now, both of my planes are in the Middle East. I will use DCS, Digital Combat Simulator, to fly formation with some friends. It's pretty good. I have VR goggles, and yeah, DCS is good for formation training. Yeah, I use simulators a lot, but not for the actual flying
Right.
skills, but for visuals and maybe some checks and getting the SOPs in.
Yes, absolutely. And I imagine that anybody who wants to have good physics feel checked out, they should probably call you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I see that, well, you mentioned it, so you probably spend more time in your F1 simulator than your flight simulators.
Yeah, I love iRacing. iRacing, I think, is the best driving simulator at the moment on the market, and I managed to get a few licenses there, and always trying to play with some friends online.
So what is on tap for this year in, let's just say, the United States? Are you planning a trip? Will you be here for any air shows?
So at the moment, we have confirmed Pacific Air Show in October, Huntington Beach again. Maybe we'll get some extra shows later on. Unfortunately, where you get most of the bookings is ICAS, which usually happens in Vegas in December. My baby son was born a few weeks after ICAS, so I couldn't risk going there, and
Right.
I didn't turn up there. But yeah, if you're organizing shows in US, give us a call, come to my social media, send me a message, and I'm sure we can work out something.
And did you hang out with Mike Daniel when you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came in a couple of days early, and I flew with Mike to some cool locations. He's a really cool guy, and 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago, we also had Mike Port from Cub Crafters, and we had a really nice trip around California, landing in really really lovely places.
Yeah, those are cool. And Mike Daniel, fun fact, he was the very first podcast guest that I had on here.
Oh, cool! I need to look back in the episodes and find it.
Yeah, it was the very first one. Things have changed since then. That was last year, but there's been a few more since then. But it was really great fun. He's got a great story and, of course, a great looking airplane. I haven't seen it with its new paint job, or I guess it's a decal with the Cheshire Cat. But um, I know he had the
Yeah,
Pacific Air Show logo on that for a long time. Well, I hope you get to the States more than just the Pacific Air Show. We'll keep our ears peeled and see if you're coming over, because it'll be definitely fun to see you somewhere over here
yeah.
for sure.
I'll definitely pitch Brad Dam from Cub Crafters to get me in some of the Jim Richmond Foundation strips and do some cool stuff with him. There's a small chance I may be at Sun and Fun as well, but yeah, that's not confirmed yet. Let's see how it goes.
Right. Well, I will be at Sun and Fun, so hopefully I get to see you or your airplane or both while you're there. Let's hope that works out. But again, nothing confirmed for sure. So, well, that any other things that you want to leave us with in terms of inspiring the next generation? I mean, your videos pretty much speak for themselves.
Well, if we have some young pilots listening, that's one thing I want to say, that I started from nowhere. My family didn't have money to put me through flight training, and I worked very, very hard. And look where I am now, and sitting in the hangar on the private strip. So guys, don't give up. Whatever you want to do, everything is achievable if you put hard work and your mind into it, and yeah, just keep flying and see you at the air shows.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, again, it takes grit, it takes passion, right? You have to have the vision of where you can be, and then you really have to be willing to put in the work. And so it's fun to see the people that are willing to put in the work and where they can get to. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, big thanks to you, Luke, for coming on the podcast. That wraps up this episode. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode and want to hear more from backcountry pilots and the people who build their airplanes, share this podcast with your friends at the hangar. Hit subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Leave a review, as it does help people find the podcast. See you next time. Time to pull chocks, clear pop, get you the next gravel bar or helipad near you.
Excellent.
All right, man. That was cool.